Right now, in most markets around the country, it's extremely hard to get listings because so few people are selling compared to how many are buying. So, we're going to one of the best agents in Hawaii, one of the top producers in all of Hawaii, Zeus Kang, to find out how they're able to get so many listings and what do they say in the listing presentation? What are the questions? What are the specific questions that they ask the sellers? How do they value the home? What are they doing to market to get new sellers and to get new listings? He's going to go through all of that today in a very detailed way, so get ready. Okay, guys, I'm here with Zeus Kang from Zeus Group Hawaii. Zeus, welcome to the Massive Agent Podcast, my friend. What's up?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. You run Hawaii. I swear to God. Like you're first off, you're an actor on Hawaii 5-0, right? And you do some cool stuff out in Hawaii. And you're EXP's number one team, number one producers out in Hawaii, which is super cool. And following you on social, you get a lot of listings, and a lot of them are nice listings too, like higher end ones. And one of the questions I'm getting asked by far the most often is how the hell do we get listings in these really, really tough sellers markets where there's no inventory to begin with? And you've obviously done a great job of doing that. So I wanted to pick your brain. Before we start, I'm curious, man, like give us your bio a little bit. Like how long have you been an agent and when did you start to grow the team that you currently have?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. Quick bio, I guess. Originally from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area,
Hmm.
Northern Virginia to be more specific, Fairfax County area. I grew up there. I traveled a bunch. I came back. I was just working after college, I was working, government jobs, contracting jobs, which is real popular there. And nothing really seemed to fit. I got a business degree in finance, and I had dreams of going up to New York and doing the whole investment banking thing and just make a crap ton of money. And fortunately or unfortunately, I got a job with the IRS out of college. And
Really?
uh, once I was with the IRS for a year, I realized very quickly that I never want to touch that kind of finance. So, long story short, 2010, I got a job with the FBI. It was about a year and a half process of getting all my clearances, top clearances, SCI clearances, and training, of course. And once I did that, I literally opened up an envelope in training and they said, "You're going to Honolulu." So I said, "Where's that?" I know most people go to Hawaii when they're younger on vacation. I'd never been there. So yeah, so fast forward 2010, I've got two suitcases. I literally knew nobody here. I arrived at the airport and I was surprised there were even buildings here because I didn't have any expectation as to what Hawaii was going to be. So I did investigative work for the FBI for about 5.5 years. I specialized in criminal counterintelligence and counterterrorism efforts. That was kind of my specialty. It was a great 5.5 years. I learned a lot, met some amazing people, saw some real cool things, learned a lot. It just really wasn't something that I really saw myself doing for the next 30 years. I knew I was always more kind of creative, entrepreneurial in spirit. So I quit that job. I always say it's the hardest but best decision I ever made in my life. I mean, you can imagine telling your parents you quit the FBI, and it's a tough pill to swallow. Yeah, so I quit. I took off for a year. I traveled. I went to 30 some odd countries. I came back. And I always knew I wanted to get into real estate. And I remember buying a condo here, and the real estate agent that helped me said, "If you ever come back, I can certainly help you get into it." So that's exactly what I did. I reached out to her, and she was growing a team as well, a very successful team. Joined the team, wasn't my thing. I was already kind of ready to take off on my own. So I left the team my first year out. Very fortunately, I ended up selling, I think, 20 homes, or selling and buying or helping people with 20 homes. So I said, okay, I can do this. But I didn't really have a life that year. I mean, it was the only thing I did, because my theory was I don't know sales. I haven't sold a pencil until this day. I'm from law enforcement. Like, what could I possibly do? So I told myself that I was going to study what I need to do as a new agent, except I was going to just 5 or 10x my effort. So if people are doing 2 open houses, I do 4 open houses a week. That's kind of how I built the business. And so my second year, I knew I couldn't do 40 homes. I knew I needed to raise my price point, and so that's exactly what I did. I sold 23 or 24 homes, but my price point doubled to 800,000. So my third year, again, I couldn't double my volume or double my price point to 1.6 or 2 million. So I thought, okay, I need leverage. I need help now. So ended up bringing on an agent. I hired and fired a bunch, made the quintessential team leader mistake, of hiring, too quickly. So I made all the mistakes in the book. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, I didn't get here without making a ton of mistakes. I never really thought about becoming a salesperson, like a realtor. I wanted to initially learn the investment side of real estate, and I thought, no, I mean, what better way to invest and help people, right? But this has turned into 5 years later, kind of where we're at with a team here on Oahu. We expand onto Maui, and we're looking to be the first team in Hawaii, Hawaiian history, to full service the whole island.
That's cool as hell. That's
Yeah.
cool as hell. Okay, so when you brought on your first agent and you made some of those mistakes, what are some of those mistakes? Because I think a lot of people listening, maybe they're so busy that they're considering bringing on their first agent to help them scale and to have some leverage like you were looking to do. What are some of those mistakes that they should look out for?
Man, I tell you what, interviewing and taking your time, they say, hire slow, fire fast. My new model is hire very slow and don't ever fire, right? Because if you hire the right people, you don't need to do that. So my big thing is, it's got to come organic. I know team, building is real popular still, and it kind of blew up with, KW building all these teams and that structure. Don't do it if you haven't earned the right to. I mean, being a team leader is it's an earned position. If I don't have leads to give to my agents, or if I don't have listings for them to sit open house, I don't deserve to be team leader. I just don't. It's an ego decision to want a team and a logo and yada, yada, yada. I mean, you're really just wasting your time. For me, it was, again, something I never fathomed that I would need as far as a team. But it was something that came and kind of grew out of necessity. It came very organically. I needed support because I had too much business, So, it kind of came full circle when I was touching base with the client I'd kind of been in touch with, and I called them and I said, shoot, I should have called them 6 months ago, kind of fell through the cracks. And they said, hey, Zeus, so nice to meet you. Like, how have you been? I said, great, fantastic. Just want to touch base, see how you're doing. And they said, yeah, we're actually getting keys next week. It's like, agent's worst nightmare, right? So I said, oh, what happened? Like, she said, yeah, we were following you, and, we thought you were just too busy. And so we didn't want to overwhelm you. And so we ended up, working with someone. So I said, wow, like that hurt, And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I said, I need to get help. I need to build a team. I need, more support. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, put yourself in a position where you earn the right to become a team leader, earn the right to have a team so that you can supply leads, you can provide support to the agents that are wanting to join.
What are some of the things that you look for in an agent, especially your first agent? What are some of the things that you should be looking for?
A couple of things for sure, as I've learned, they gotta have intelligence. I mean, you can have the nicest person, the friendliest, most, warm person in the world, but this is not that kind of business. You got to have someone that's willing to put forth the effort. Initiative is something that I really look for. So are they asking me questions without Googling it, without doing a little bit of research? Those are tell signs that, they don't have the initiative. They're not thinking on their own. If they research and they can't find the solution, I'm here to help. But if I'm the first go-to person, a second a question pops in your mind, it shows me that they're not ready to develop, and for me to help them build their own business. They're not ready.
That's a great point, actually, because you're right. Like, there's no shortage of information out there, but there's a shortage of willingness to seek it out.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of bizarre. So yeah, that's extremely telling. I wouldn't have thought to really look for that, but that's a huge red flag for sure. When did you start? Because you do a lot of really cool stuff. Like, I follow you on social. You act, and you're a bodybuilder, and you travel all over the place. Like, when did you get to the point where you had time to do that extra stuff? And is that because of the team, or you just kind of built the team around that stuff? What does that look like?
I mean, I think it's very important to realize, that what's portrayed on social media isn't reality, right? I mean, oftentimes, people like to paint or create or fabricate this life that, people want you to perceive. I did that, way back when I was bodybuilding. I'd create like an image for myself because it was kind of a part of the industry. But now, it's really just planning and structuring your schedule and your business in balance and harmony with what is also important in your life. My first 2 years, I'll be honest with you, Dustin, like I didn't have any of that. I didn't go on vacation. I worked 7 days a week. I know it sounds like a broken record for a lot of people, but it took me doing that, of 10xing my efforts, of doing 4 open houses a week for 6 months, of putting, being a nightclub promoter, like putting, flyers on doors and standing outside, grocery stores and doing all that. It took a year, almost 18 to 24 months of that before what people perceive now on social media that I am bearing the fruits of my labor. I mean, to be honest with you, like I don't even think I'm at the point where I am bearing the fruits of my labor, because my dreams and aspirations are much greater than what the travel expeditions and the bodybuilding and the acting, like I want to become an A-list actor. I want to travel to 50 more countries, and so, it's a double-edged sword for sure. I'm never kind of happy with where I'm at. So I have to take a step back sometimes and really sit down and say, wow, like I have done a lot. I'm very appreciative, humble about that. But, it's perspective too, it's all relative.
Nice. I like that. And you're right. What you see on social media is not necessarily reality, or it's just a very curated version of reality, right? It doesn't show the whole picture. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you mentioned that. In Oahu, where you're at, Honolulu, super competitive. Yes.
Very competitive. Yeah.
Very competitive. Right now, this cracks me up because I've seen agents in probably every state posting this, but this meme going around that Tom Brady has been to more Super Bowls than there are active listings on the MLS. And it's funny, but it's also like, oh shit, like there's nothing to sell right now. And so agents are freaking out if they have buyers because it's taken them 6 months just to get an offer accepted or to even have a chance to do that. And so everyone wants listings. You and your team, you've done a great job of getting listings. So, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you marketing? How are you attracting business? And what would you recommend to people for getting listings in these super tough markets?
I think this may, and I apologize in advance, be the most boring answer you'll get for that question, but I'm a fundamentals guy. Like playing football in high school, you learn the fundamentals. There isn't anything out there now in real estate that is going to accept, there's no safe button. There's no easy button. There's no post. There's no technology out there that's going to trump fundamentals. There isn't. Okay. So we go back to the fundamentals. The last 3 or 4 years, we've developed an entire database of past clients. I'm sure it's a reoccurring theme on your podcast, but that's a gigantic pool that may be a huge area or database that we can tap into for listings because you've helped them purchase. Sticking to the fundamentals and really, like you said, that meme of Tom Brady having more Super Bowls than there are listings, do you really want to fight the current? Do you really want to be one of 26 offers going in, and really put your buyer and yourself in that position, your financial future, your family, it's like, do you want to really do that? Do you want to swim against the current? Or do you need to take a step back and reevaluate, what you need to do to where you're finding that channel to where you can avoid it, to where you have the upper hand. And for us, it's always been listing. And so what we're doing today really is no different than what we've done for 5 years. And so while people are changing their strategy year after year, oh, I was buyers focused and now I'm trying to get listings. Well, guess what? There's 7 listings in Kailua under $2 million. If you think you're going to be the 8th, good luck. But you can be, so you have to place yourself strategically and kind of, again, if you're not 2 steps ahead of the competition, guess what? You're a step behind, and so we take a lot of time assessing where the market is now, where it's going. So we've already kind of anticipated for this a year ago. That's why we're getting so many listings. That's why we're able to leverage a lot of that.
What are you doing marketing wise I mean, obviously it started years ago and it kind of snowballs to where now you're reaping the harvest from years prior and the efforts you did prior. But what are some of those things that the average agent can start doing now to build towards listings later on?
Absolutely. Again, very boring answer, but open houses. I mean, whether you're a week in or you're 5.5 years in or 16 years in, sit those open houses. I mean, these people are literally walking through your office and with a hand raise saying, you know what, I need help, So you've obviously have to have a good follow-up system for that. You can't just, sit on your iPhone, trolling Instagram and then someone walks in, you're just kind of winging it. You've got to come prepared. You never want to practice at the Super Bowl, right? I mean, you've got there for a reason. And so that's your performance. That's your 15 minutes on stage. So a lot of people tend to forget that. They show up at 2:05 when your open house starts at 2. You should be there about 45 minutes before prep, script practice as far as what you're going to do. So when you're prepared and you put yourself in those positions, we have listings where, we encourage our agents to make that their office. I mean, we have a listing in Kahala right now with a 200-degree ocean view. I mean, why wouldn't you want to make that your office? And so put out 12 signs, sit in your office, wait for people to come in. And people often ask also, like, how do you get into luxury? Well, sit a luxury open, especially if they're vacant. I mean, you can do it 7 days a week. There's no law saying that it's restricted to Sundays, or whatever
Right.
day in your market. So
I think I love what you're saying, and you're right. It's so basic, it's so foundational, and somewhat boring. I think that, well, I know for a fact, okay, because I was one of those agents in this position when I was struggling. It's like, just give me that, like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, but they're thinking that there's some special
right.
magical system, like superzippylistings.com, go sign up for that and boom, you get 10 listings. Like, it doesn't work that way. And if it did, it wouldn't work that way, because then everyone would do it and they'd kill it. Right. So I think that there's just a lot of people who are afraid of work and consistent work and being patient enough to let it build, because you can't go do an open house today and then all of a sudden you get, a bunch of multi-million-dollar listings the next weekend, unless you build up some credibility and they see you over and over. Is it true or false? And I'm kind of random, but I think this is super important and I want to get your take on it. Open houses are not just to pick up buyers. They're also auditions for other listings, right? Other sellers are seeing how you're doing those open houses and how you're marketing them, right? What are some of the things that, first off, have you seen that playing out? Like, what are some of the things that you guys do to leverage open houses into future listings?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, to simply send an open house isn't going to cut it. You're a one-trick pony. You're kind of hoping and wishing you get business. Nevertheless, it's better than doing nothing or cold
Right.
calling. But we look to really optimizing our fundamentals, right? So open houses is one of our fundamental activities. Okay, I can't stress that enough. If you're a new agent, even if you're not a new agent, if you're not sending multiple open houses a week, I mean, you're wasting your time. Okay. So around the fundamentals, okay, for example, open houses, okay, how can we optimize it? Okay, so before a listing goes live, we do our pre-listing marketing, okay, which means everybody on that street or that, you see the same mailman over and over again, right? He has a route, okay? We find that route out by going on USPS.com. And we find out what that route is. Okay, so everyone on his route is going to get a direct mailer. Okay, now we all know that direct mailers, okay, are expensive and they're very low ROI. Okay, which means that neighbor getting your flyer, in all likelihood, 9 out of 10 chances or odds are going to be that he's going to open his mail, look at it, and then toss in the trash. Okay, so you don't want to play those odds. Now, we do a 2 or 3 week campaign. Okay, direct mail campaign. So the first time he tosses it, the second time maybe looks at it for a little bit longer and then tosses it. The third time, he may keep it in his coffee table, and then he might see a sign for your open house, and then that's when he meets you. Okay, so, and then we follow that up with geo farming. Okay, so now he's getting your mailer for 3 weeks. He's seeing at the open house, he's seeing your open house signs, and now he's getting a call from you. Okay, and so when you do that, you've turned a super low ROI initiative of direct mailers into now a much higher percentage conversion of upwards of 50, 60, 70%.
I'm so glad you said that. And because when I was struggling, I'd watch a webinar for some like magical letters that you send out, right? They're worded so perfectly that they just rain clients. And I put all my money and all my time into that. And I could only send out 3 or 4 letters. And it's like, there's a 1% response rate on that shit. And that's all I did. But you're right. Like just the mailers by themselves, not a great return on investment, but coupled with the other things, seeing you in multiple places repeatedly, now they're like, oh, I remember Zeus. I remember that logo. I've seen that name before. Boom, boom, boom. They start to connect the dots because you're in multiple places and it all works together. It's not any one of them is gold. What's gold is all of them working together to create that effect that you have. So, and that's so important, guys. Like there's no magic bullet. The magic bullet is being seen everywhere as often as you possibly can. What do you do on social media for listings, for open houses, for just marketing your business? Well, can you kind of describe your social strategy?
Yeah, I'll just mention one thing real quick to your point earlier too. The way I'm a more visual person, so the way I look at it is there is like the front of your brain. Okay, not literally, but the front of your brain is what you get inundated. The marketing. I mean, we see hundreds and thousands of marketing material, right? So if you're a drop in the bucket, they're not going to remember. Okay, the repetition starts to move that towards the back of their brain, where it becomes more long-term memory. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Like, we've done such exposure wise, extensively to where my friend was flying in from Washington, D.C., had a layover in Los Angeles, just had a small talk with someone sitting next to him. And, he said, I'm visiting my friend in Hawaii. And she said, what does he do? And he said, he's a realtor. She asked what his name was. And he said, he's the founder of the Zeus Group Hawaii. She recognized that name, and so she may not be looking to buy or sell, but there's brand recognition. And that comes from not a single direct mailer, that doesn't come from a single post, but it comes because it's a collective effort. So when you're thinking of, okay, am I going to spend this money on a mailer? Am I going to spend this money on a social media boost? Am I going to do something? Okay, you got to think, okay, is it going to be front brain initiative, or do I have a system to where it's going to move it towards the back? If it's not going to do that, you might as well save your money and time.
I love that so much. I mean, with this conversation, this is where it starts to make sense to sponsor the high school baseball team and have a banner in the outfield, right? Like, if that's all you did, if you put all your money and efforts into that, thinking your phone's going to ring off the hook, you're confusing yourself. But if they go to their kid's baseball game and see you, but they've seen your postcards, they've seen your door hangers, they've seen your Facebook ads, they've seen your social posts, they've seen you or they've heard about you on the radio, they've seen flyers, like all of that together, and they're like, oh my God, like Zeus is everywhere, he must be the guy. Like, the Zeus group must be that must be the team here in Hawaii, because I see them everywhere. And we all have the power to create that experience and that perception for people, especially on their phones in their news feed, through retargeting and just all that stuff. But it takes piecing together all the different things with that end goal in mind: be seen everywhere as often as possible. I want to switch gears real quick, because I'm so glad that you talked about that. I love when we can get real practitioners, people who have grown a very successful business, that they understand that, they get that, and that's what's helping to grow their business. So thank you for sharing that. But let's talk listing presentation. What are you guys doing? Anything special in your listing presentations? Do you have any special tips or anything like that you think really helps give you guys a leg up?
I hate the word presentation, so we don't ever call it a listing presentation. We don't. The way that we look at it, a presentation, I think, is something that happens when you're in a class looking at a PowerPoint. A
Right.
presentation is something a car salesman does when he's trying to outline the features of a car. Okay.
It describes a typical listing presentation. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, okay, if you're preparing for a listing presentation, okay, inherently you become a presenter. Okay.
Yes.
You have something that you want to share or to give. Okay. Really, Simon Sinek said it best, right? You got to start from the inside out, right? So it's funny. We have a listing presentation. I mean, it's a PDF file. I don't ever bring it. I mean, I literally come empty-handed. For me, when you go into your doctor's office with a problem, he doesn't have a bunch of brochures waiting for you in his office. Okay. You have a one-to-one conversation with him. Okay. He's there, okay, to assess what the problem is. And then after a full evaluation, come up with his professional recommendation as to what you ought to do. Okay. And
Yes.
that is really no different than how we approach it. I mean, that is almost exactly how we approach it. And so we often say we're the doctors of real estate, and so I don't go with anything. I don't have a single sheet of paper with me. I may have my phone or my iPad to take down some notes, which is important so you don't forget. But I don't carry with me a listing presentation. I'm there. I have script. I've done this enough to where I know the questions that I need to be asking in order for me to help or best help them. And that's really what's there. 90-10 rule. Okay. It's not them, it's not you talking and presenting 90% of times and then them saying yes, no, maybe 10% of times. Okay. It's the other way around. Okay. 10% allows you just enough airtime, okay, for you to ask the questions. Okay. 90% of that time, if it's an hour, okay, is spent them telling you what their situation is. And that's where you're making the assessment. Okay. So it's like, when you talk, when your friend calls you after 7 years of not talking to you and he wants to talk your brain off for an hour, and then you're listening, and at the end of the conversation he goes, wow, Dustin, like that was the best conversation I've had in 10 years. He did most of talking, because he wanted to get off what he wanted to get off, but to him it was still a great conversation. And so we try to structure it, and this is very intentional. We don't go in there just winging it. I don't want any of your listeners to think that I'm winging it when I go there. I'm very strategic in what I do. Okay, my questions are all in some type of order to where I'm gonna find out exactly what I need to find out from them in order for me to help. Okay, that's again no different than a doctor, right? He starts narrowing down. Okay, is it sharp pain? Is it dull pain? How long have you had it? Have you had any symptoms? Are you taking anything? I mean, it's a full analysis, and that's what we do. Okay, and only at the very end, okay, do you speak up and go, you know what? Based on what you've said, this is what I would offer in terms of my personal recommendation. And if you do that, I mean, you don't need any presentation. I mean, you've already got the business.
I think most agents in their presentations, it's a PDF or a PowerPoint with a bunch of crap about their brokerage, a bunch of crap about how long they've been an agent and this, that, and the other thing. And the better ones understand that the seller only gives a shit about how much they're going to make and what you're going to do for them and how you're going to do it. So like, if you can just get that tone right and deliver that message, you're going to do better than most. But it's interesting. I've heard a lot of really, really like top producers kind of laugh at that. They're like, I don't have a listing presentation. Like I go and we have a conversation, I ask questions and I listen. And so that's a very common theme from those that are selling a lot of listings, which means you have to get the listings first, which you're doing. What are some of those questions that you ask? Like when you show up, kind of walk us through, the average listing meeting, if you will. What does that look like, and what kind of questions are you asking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I walk in, the first thing I like to do is I ask for permission to see if they would be willing to show me their house. So I'll walk in, I say, hey, do you want to walk me through real quick? I kid you not, if they're eager, okay, they're gonna want you to ask this question. They're gonna want you to ask if they can show them their house, okay? Which you're giving them an opportunity, and you're also assessing, what condition the house is in, because you're preparing yourself for the end, kind of the dialogue of what the recommendation is going to be. If you go straight to the kitchen table and you start talking and whatever, you can't make a fair assessment. So the first thing I do is ask for a tour. And usually 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, great, fantastic. Here's the garage. Here's what we've done. They're eager and they're willing to do that. Once we do that, I pick a really good common location, not in the bedroom, not in a bathroom, okay? A kitchen peninsula or an island or the table, somewhere where we can face each other face to face, where it's quiet, that we can have a good conversation. You don't want any distractions, anything like that. And then, and then I basically just start off with, asking, why am I here? Okay. I mean, I know you're a busy person. It's COVID. You even risk, to a certain level, your health. Why am I here? Why did you invite me here? Why did you allow me to enter into your home? Okay. So I start very broad, trying to find out just kind of what their problems are, or their pains, or their pleasures. They may be looking to sell down and move to a bigger house, so they're excited about that process. So I try to identify those intangibles. Okay. Again, it's not, I firmly believe it's not what you say, but how you make them feel that really lasts. It's a lasting memory. And so I want to get out, I want to extract as much of those feel good or painful experiences that they're either feeling or wanting to feel. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, a series of questions. I mean, I won't go through my whole presentation, but I start with that. I get more specific as to, I do ask some real estate related questions, but I want to, again, you want to keep that to a minimum, right? As far as our number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and stuff like that. I've even taken a step further and instead of asking, okay, how many bedrooms are you looking for? How many bathrooms are you looking for? I mean, it's such a real estate question, right? I mean, it bugs me, right? How else can you ask that question and kill two birds with one stone, right? Well, do you have a family? How many kids do you have? And how old are they? Are they in school? I mean, so in assessing that, you can take the initiative and say, well, you've got 3 kids. So I'm guessing you're going to be looking for what, at least a 3-4 bedroom. Is that correct? Right. So you've taken the initiative based on, and that also affirms that you're listening. Okay. As opposed to asking, okay, you want 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. Got it. Noted. Okay. You're asking, well, you've mentioned you've got Karen, Susie, and Joe. So I'm sure that the 2 can share, but the teenager will probably want their own room. So are we looking for a 3-4 bedroom at the very least? Yeah, absolutely. Boom. You've built a little bit more rapport than asking how many bedrooms and bathrooms are you looking for. So I do that at the very end. Again, I find out, I never, I always address the elephant in the room. They want to know about how much they're going to net. Okay. And a big part of that is commission. Okay. So we talk about commission. I have a little one pager that I bring sometimes. It literally has an elephant in the room, like a cartoon drawing. And I go, we're going to address this. So don't worry. And then I'll go into, I'll ask them and say, are you interested in our commission structure? Sometimes I say, you know what, you've got the job. Tell me what it is. We'll get it done. I'll send a listing presentation with our 6%, 7%. I've even done 7% listing fees. So I've gotten 4.5% before. So
Nice. Okay, so to wrap up the whole listing meeting, getting them to take action, or asking for the close, if you will, like a salesperson would say. What are you doing? Like any particular way, or does it just depend on the conversation and how it flows?
No, it's very structured. All my closings, if you want to call it that, are structured the same way. There's no me asking them, are they going to sign? There's no awkward like, oh, hey, here's the listing contract. Now, you bring out your pen and it gets real awkward. There's none of that. I don't, if I'm going to leave that meeting and they're going to end up interviewing for another agent and then they're going to bring a sheet of paper and get it signed, that's fine by me. Then I really haven't done my job. So I don't bring the listing contract with me. Again, I know this may be a controversial thing. It's like, oh, well, you got to get it signed because if you leave and, over the 24 hours, someone else, that's fine. I mean, if within 24 hours, someone's going to jump in and do a better job, then they deserve the job. So for me, I know full well, I'm confident that when I leave, what we discussed is what's going to happen, is what's going to transpire. So I leave the conversation. I ask if there's any other questions they have for me. I instruct them of what's going to happen. I say, once I leave here, okay, I'm going to prepare a full evaluation of your property. Okay. There's no way, if you're an agent out there and you're bringing a comp report with you, I don't know how you're making a fair assessment of the house without even having looked at it.
Right.
So I do that once I leave. Okay. I email them within the close of business evaluation based on what I saw and what we talked. I give them a price range as far as, again, you want to control the process, but you never ever make decisions on behalf of your clients. Okay. So I never say, seller, you should list at 2 million or 2.5 million. Okay. I provide them, based on my analysis, a range. So I may say, based on my research, the valuation, the market value of your home is between 1.8 and 2.1. Okay. And I explained to them during the presentation, I called it a presentation, during the dialogue, that as long as it's within that range, we're within market value. Okay. It's up to them if they want to go on the lower end, okay, and be more competitive and drive up offers and make it competitive. Okay. Or they can price it on the upper end to where they may risk higher days on market, maybe not, maybe we may be pushing the 30 days on market, which is not going to be, so I always push for somewhere in the middle or on the lower end. So at market value or slightly under is the way I use the verbiage. And I explain what the benefits of doing that are. It makes your job a lot easier because you're going to have a lot of interest. And also it creates a competitive environment to where you can have competing offers, which is what you want for your seller. And you explain to them and you bring and you share examples of how you've deployed the strategy and they've netted more money than pricing it high. Pricing it at 2.2 doesn't mean you're going to get 2.2. Maybe pricing it at 199, making it competitive, will end up netting you more money, which is usually the case.
Dude, I love this so much because you're getting specific and tactical. So thank you for that. In summary, some of the takeaways there, like the themes, you have confidence. So like you're instructing them, like you use the word instruct. You're instructing them and teaching them, here's how this works. Like, here's how we're going to do this. we're going to do what you want, but here's how we're going to do it. And so that just exudes confidence rather than asking or hoping or like, hey, I hope you'd give me a chance. Would you consider hiring me? Like so many agents do that, and it's because of a lack of confidence or, in their skills or whatever. So, and you're doing the opposite. How long did it take you to learn that? Is that something you were taught in the beginning, or is it something you just kind of have to grow into?
It takes practice. I mean, you could be the worst basketball player, but you do it enough, you take enough free throw shots. I mean, you're going to get better at it, but oftentimes 98% of people aren't the one percenters because they're not willing to put in that work. They're not willing to shoot, 150 free throws a day to get better at it, And so, link up with someone, I mean, all my agents have the luxury of coming with me to all my presentations if they want, so see it, watch it, say it, practice it. I always say you got to memorize it first. Okay. I mean, verbatim. I mean, don't even switch around a word, use verbatim what the script we have in place. Okay. The only way you could really get good at it is after you've memorized it. Okay. You start to then the next stage of that is to start to internalize it. Now, what that means is, what you're saying, the words that are coming out of your mouth. Like when I'm on set, I got to know my lines. Okay. I can't get into character if I don't even know my lines. I mean, they're going to call cut, right? The director's going to say cut. We're going to do it over. So memorize it for certain. I mean, if you need to go practice and say it verbatim, and you're going to sound like a robot, but do that, and then once you've memorized it, once you can say it in your sleep, I always say, hey guys, I tell my agent, I say, if I run into you in the grocery store and I tell you to script your open house script or your new agent, I mean, your new online lead script, they should be able to recite it like that. I mean, without hesitation. When and only when you've done that can you start to internalize it. And what that means is they now really understand the words that are coming out of their mouth. Okay, why am I asking about their family? Why am I asking about their occupation, their recreation, their dreams? Okay, why am I asking these questions? When you start to internalize it, that's when you really take a gigantic leap forward, and that's where the confidence comes from. Okay, you can't build confidence when you're still trying to memorize, trying to figure out what you're going to say. Okay, only after you've done that and you've began or started to internalize the scripting can you become confident, and then that just kind of goes back. I mean, it kind of builds on each other. And so I've never really had a confidence issue, but was this easy for me from the beginning? Absolutely not. I've tried winging it. I'm a confident guy. Like I'm going to walk in there and take the business. You'll learn very fast that that's not going to work. So have the confidence, but the confidence comes from practice of internalizing it. And then only after you've internalized it, okay, only after you've internalized it, can you take that and then customize it to your personality, to however you'd like. But don't even think about customizing before you've memorized. Don't even think about internalizing until you memorize it.
It's no surprise that you've been able to do so well. And your team's what, number one at EXP in all of Hawaii? Is that right?
2 or 3 months running. I don't know. I mean, one may have come in, but yeah, as far as I know.
Love it, man. That's super cool. And no surprise why that is. Last question, and then we'll get into the quick rapid fire questions at the end. What's your number one tip for a brand new real estate agent? Maybe they just got their license or they're considering it. What do they need to know right now?
Yeah, I mean, when they're in the business and licensed, as we've mentioned a couple of times before, sit as many open houses as possible. Okay, I mean, that's so important now. Okay, the other thing is really find a good mentor. It may not come in the form of a brokerage, and probably won't. I'm just being real. If you're joining a brokerage because they're selling you the idea of support, probably not. So find an individual who's going to dedicate a portion of their time and effort and perhaps money, okay, to helping you. Okay, that's going to be really important. Okay, work out some sort of fair structure to where if they're helping you, from your first, 2 or 3 closings, they're getting a cut, just to make it worth their time. We're always open to finding new talent. We're not out actively recruiting, but if someone again shows the initiative, shows that they're willing to put in the work, shows fits our cultural environment, our culture, our team's culture, then we certainly entertain it. So a team could be a fantastic place to learn. I mean, I know my agents have I think really kind of benefited from the team support and training. But yeah, open houses when you start, no matter what, and then finding a good mentor or someone who's a little bit more experienced. I would really caution that too. When I first started, I had plans of interviewing and buying lunch as many top 100 agents as possible, so I can kind of pick their brain. I made the mistake of talking to agents that have been 30, 40, 50 years in, and they told me not to cold call, not to do open houses. Well, they can afford to do that because they have 30 years of past clients, right? But as a new agent, that's not going to be very effective for you. So someone who's maybe 2, 3, 5, 7 years at the most in, who have been in your shoes literally 4 years ago, that can kind of tell you, what to do, what not to do, I think will be greatly beneficial.
Great advice. Great advice. So at the end of every podcast interview, we like to do these rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you either or. You just pick one or the other. You can elaborate if you'd like, but you don't have to. And then I have a couple open-ended questions at the end. And then after these, we'll give people a chance to, we'll let them know where they can find you, where they can follow you and see what you and your team are up to. All right, my friend, Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Instagram or LinkedIn?
I don't really mess too much with LinkedIn, so Instagram.
Books or podcasts?
Both.
Podcasts or audiobooks?
Audiobooks. Or I don't know. I mean, it really depends, but I would say, again, in that case, both as well.
Nice. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Good call. Alexa or Google Home?
Alexa just notified, so Alexa.
No, there's probably 1,000 people whose Alexa just went off. I love doing this shit every week. It's funny to me. Burgers or pizza?
Pizza.
New York or LA?
Oh, we're just in New York, so New York.
Nice. Yeah, your pictures were amazing. It makes me want to go there now before the crowds get crazy again.
Oh yeah, it was super crazy to see New York that empty. It was unbelievable.
It's like a movie, right? Like I Am Legend or something weird. Like, man, it's kind of sad. NFL or NBA?
NFL.
NFL or Major League Baseball?
NFL.
Mountains or beach?
Ooh, for me, mountains.
Yeah.
I know we live in Hawaii, but I love the mountains.
Well, you guys have mountains on Oahu, right?
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, still haven't been there thanks to COVID. I was going to come this year, but I got to come see you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Podcasts or vlogs?
Podcasts.
YouTube or Facebook Live?
YouTube.
Uber or Lyft?
Uber.
Gary V or Grant Cardone?
Neither.
Yeah. What's the most impactful book you've ever read?
Man, I mean, I know you get this answer a lot for investment. I started off reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. For real estate sales, I would say The One Thing.
Is that Gary Keller?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like waiting for you. I'm like, The One Thing what? Like The One Thing is what?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Gary Keller book.
Yeah, I believe that's still the title. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then give us an app recommendation. Any apps that you're obsessed with right now or that you just discovered that you want to recommend?
I mean, just in general or about real estate?
Whatever, in general, but whatever.
I don't know, man. I keep my iPhone pretty simple.
Yeah.
I should probably see what other apps out there, but I mean, obviously Google Calendar, I'm on it every day. I use Robinhood for my investments. Obviously Instagram, so nothing too crazy there.
Have you been messing around with Clubhouse yet?
No.
No? It's probably good.
It is? Okay.
I love Clubhouse. I think it's incredible, but it sucks a lot of time. Like it's just a different animal, man. It's like live interactive podcasts. So yeah, I think eventually you'll get into it and you'll like it, but it can really suck you in.
Is it like a chat, like an audio chat room?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's no DMs, there's no likes or anything like that. It's just you jump into rooms and there's certain speakers and then there's the audience, and you can always raise your hand and be called up on stage to speak or give your 2 cents. But it's really, really interesting. I've told this story on the show before, but the first couple of days I was on Clubhouse, I jumped into this room that Grant Cardone and Soulja Boy, the rapper, they were like debating wealth strategies and like money and what to, and it was bizarre because like it was really good shit, like tactical stuff. It's like, wait a minute, I'm listening live to Grant Cardone and Soulja Boy, and then Ty Lopez jumps into the room and starts talking about like how he bought Pier 1 Imports. And it's just unique. Like the gatekeepers are gone. There's no barrier anymore. And it was all happening live. It's really, really interesting. All right, my friend, where can people find you? Where can they follow you so they can see what you're up to?
Yeah, our real estate website is ZeusGroupHawaii.com. We're now getting ready to, again, service all islands. My personal Instagram is the Zeus Kang. So you can follow me there on Instagram, and yeah, Facebook as well.
You have one of the best names in the business. You really do. How isn't it nice to be able to brand yourself with an awesome name? It
It's a
helps.
double-edged sword because you've pissed people off, they'll never forget you, right?
That's true. Good point. Yeah, very good point. We will link to your social media handles and your website in the show notes. So whichever podcast player you guys are listening on, just click to the show notes and they'll be there, as well as YouTube. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, they'll be in the description. Zeus Kang, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you sharing all those details and all those tactics. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love your podcast, and yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. It's very informative and fun.
Thanks, man.
And we got to link up in person one day soon.
Absolutely, dude. I'm coming to Hawaii this year. It's happening this year. As long as they don't make me sit in a room for 14 days, I will. I'll be out.
Right on, brother.
Thanks.